All right, man, here we are in Florida. VW Darren here. I've been telling you we're gonna put this together, and today's the day. We got our rods and pistons here, resized rods. Got our bearings. Got our crank clean. I mean clean. If you ate off this stuff, you know people always say clean enough to eat off of it. If you ate off this, it would taste funny. It's so clean. Turn this fan off so you can hear. What we got here is a 390 Ford. This block's been out of production probably for close to 25-30 years now. This used to be the hot rod staple. It's got a deep main design. It's really a cool sort of motor. This came after the L block, or the Y block they call them. It's in the 352, 390, 428 family. This is not a cross bolted main like the 429s and the 428s would be cross bolted here. This is a 2-bolt main block. This block's been decked, it's been line honed, it's been bored 30 over. We put new cam bearings in it. We've cleaned it all up. The previous owner assembled this himself and ran into a few problems and abandoned the project. So I took it over and bought this for a good deal, and we're gonna put it all back together. Don't really have anything to put this in. I always liked the way these motors looked. They have a really unique look about this. The heads are very narrow, but the motor itself is really a big engine. Here's our cylinder head. We'll be finishing these up in another video. We've extensively done major port work to these. These will outflow the Edelbrocks, way outflow them out of the box unless you do extensive port work. They've been ported, the turn's done, the bowl area's done. We put hardened seats in for the unleaded fuel. They've been CNC surfaced. Just about everything you can do. We put PC seals on them. We'll do a video and get those finished up, and we'll get those assembled in another video. This video we're going to try to get the crank in the block. Basically just going to show you the procedure of how I do it. First thing we're going to do is install our rear main oil seal. We have an oil preem or neoprene seal. You can use rope, they call them. I like the neoprene ones. They have less drag on the crank. The goal for this motor is 1 horsepower per cubic inch. A lot of guys say that shouldn't be hard to do, but this motor probably produced somewhere in the 250 horsepower range stock. We bored it 30 over. We're going with a Howard cam in this one. These cams are pretty decent. Quality's usually good. They're usually straight up when you bolt them in. You don't have to degree them in. You check them, they're usually right on. And that's about it. I'll go ahead and put you on the tripod. We'll get the bearings installed in the block. These particular bearings are dummy proof. Usually on your main bearings you'll have 2 sets of bearings. One bearing will be smooth, one bearing will have a hole with the groove in it, and that is where the oil comes through the oil galleys in the block. You always want to make sure that you have a hole to the hole. That's a mistake you can make on a big block or a small block Chevrolet. I've seen the bearings put in upside down and the crank welded to the bearings. Most of you guys know my history as painter. I've been a painter most of my life. I did have a brief stint on the Alcohol Funny Car Tour. My job on the car was right side cylinder head and the transmission and the clutch. I would pull the bell housing and the clutch and the tranny out of the car, and then I would take my right side cylinder head off, and we'd have a guy that did the left cylinder head and one on the blower, and we'd service that baby in 28 minutes, tear it down and put it back together, and we'd be running another 5-second pass. So I've built a few motors, have a little bit of experience. Primary experience is the Volkswagen. You guys know I Worked down for Scooter for about 10-15 years. We've been friends forever. He's probably one of the finest motor builders in the country. I went to work there mainly just to get his knowledge on engine building, and I ended up washing parts for 3 years, 4 years before I even got to touch a motor part other than a dirty one. And I learned about rod ratio there, you know, stroking a motor, setting a deck height, cam timing, you name it, he taught it to me. I showed you the records on the wall down there. He raced what they call the weight to cubic inch class, and you're limited to the cubic inch size of the motor, and they give you so many pounds for each cubic inch. So normally in that kind of setting, I think Slow SRT's boss races Comp Eliminator, and it's very similar now. That's basically where our class went. You get a weight per cubic inch, and most of those guys can produce anywhere from 5 to 4 horsepower per cubic inch in the motor. And when you think about that, it's just incredible. You know, a 454, if you can make 1 horsepower per cubic inch, you're only making 450 horsepower. You know, you have to get close to 2 horsepower per cubic inch to start making good power. So the key is clean assembly, make sure nothing's bound up, and of course there's a lot of other tricks. This is basically a stock engine, so we won't be learning any of that stuff. As we build some Volkswagen motors, we'll get into the different rod lengths and why we choose them, what effect they have on the dwell of the piston at top dead center, where the motor will make power, and what RPM the motor will make power. This engine, we're looking for a broad torque curve, and we're looking for a smooth power band. I think this camshaft is about 240 at 50 thousandths lift, so it should have plenty of engine vacuum and be a good driver. All right, enough yakking. Let's start hacking. So we're going to unpackage these engine bearings. You want to make sure that you don't gouge the bearing. Normally on a high performance motor, we'd be polishing these bearings with white Scotch-Brite, taking the coating off from the factory so we could get an accurate reading as to the clearance. Being that this is a stock application, we won't be getting into all that today. Like I said, on the Volkswagen stuff, we'll definitely be getting into that. Never used this particular brand of bearing before, so they look pretty decent. I don't know. So usually like to use a Cleveland bearing, but I didn't specify and I didn't get them. So this is a good idea here of I'm going to show you what we have. Our engine assembly is over as fast as it started. This is something that you have to really be careful for. I just ordered these bearings. I just told everybody I've never used these particular bearings before, but you see the problem. It's right there live on YouTube. That hole should be completely uncovered. We shouldn't have partial hole there. That's our oil gouge. That's our oil to the main bearing, and the hole doesn't line up. So I opened the first half and I thought maybe, you know, they were right and left, or top and bottom, but the sloppiness continues on. These bearings are not acceptable. That's the kind of shit you run into today right there, guys. You know, Haji made that bearing and he didn't put the hole in the right fucking spot, obviously. I mean, it's really hard to do, I guess, when you're copying a bearing, you know? I mean, how hard is it? So that's no good. We're stopped now, and as fast as we started, we come to an end. See if I can go out here and find an old bearing and see if we had the same issue before. Alright, well, let me turn you guys off. I'll go hunt a bearing down and see if the old bearing fit any better, which I'm pretty sure it did. And we'll have to go from there. That's a real bummer, man. I want to get this thing out of the stand so I can put my big block up in here. But I didn't want to have to stop this way. That's just no good, man. If I chamfer that hole, I'll have no bearing left. Alright, I'm going to go do some research online. Maybe it's designed like this. I think if the hole was any bigger, we wouldn't have any bearing surface left. But I sure don't remember it being like that. So I want to make sure. So we'll go research this and we'll get back with you. Better safe than sorry. Definitely don't want to have an oil issue going to the crank. So that's not good stuff there. All right, guys.